The whole process of welding steel into knives is pretty interesting to watch. Seeing how the metal is burnt, and all the processes involved in making a knife that is strong enough to cut anything, is something to admire. However, it is quite a long process, and it requires a lot of patience to have some of the best. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we will look at the process of making Korean knives and what is done to make them durable. But before we continue, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos on how things are made. And with that, let's get started. If there is one thing that requires a lot of heat, it is the burning of metal so that it can be molded into something else. For example, iron has a melting point of more than 1000 degrees Celsius. This means that you would have to heat the iron for it to be weak enough to be pressed into the desired shape. Before we get into the process, you should know that a lot of heat is involved. The whole process starts with a few steel plates. There are two types of plates. Some are a little bit rusted, and then some are new. They get arranged into a heap in alternating orders. Once this is done, they are all clamped together, and using a welding machine, the corners are welded together. This keeps it together as one small block of iron. It is now time to start the heating process. The forge, where all the burning will occur, is lit, and the steel block is put in it. When the block has started glowing yellow, it is removed and a powder known as thermite is sprinkled on it. When the powder lands on the hot steel, it starts burning up. The thermite is sprinkled over the steel block and returned to the forge. It then turns red hot, after which it is removed, and the thermite is sprinkled. It is then returned to the forge until it starts to have a yellow glow. It is then removed, and this time it is brushed over with a wire brush. This is to remove any impurities that may be on top. After that, the workers constantly hit it with a sledgehammer while it was still glowing. This is done by one of the workers, while the other holds it with the help of tongs. The hot block is pounded until the glow reduces, after which the thermite is sprinkled on it and returned to the forge. Here, it continues heating, and once it regains its bright yellow glow, it is removed and hit again repeatedly with sledgehammers. By this time, the tongs have also become hot, and so they are dipped in the cooling liquid. The steel block is left to heat until it is entirely glowing. This time, when it is removed, it is pounded repeatedly with the help of a machine. The machine frequently strikes the hot, glowing block, removing any top layers. As the block is constantly being pounded on, it becomes denser and denser. In addition, it also loses its magnetism, which is why knives are not magnetic. The worker ensures that it is pounded on all sides by putting it into position with the help of tongs. As it is pounded upon, you can see that there is a layer that is peeling off. At this point, the block is hot enough to be bent. An iron rod that resembles an incomplete knife is placed in the middle of the hot block, and the machine presses upon it. This somehow cuts it in half, but not completely. The worker bends it completely and pounds it with a sledgehammer. He then sprinkles some thermite and places it back into the forge. When the block is glowing once more, it is removed from the forge, and this time it is pounded upon using a wider press. Since it is very soft, it is pressed gently. And you can even see it deforming. Another round in the forge is pounded upon by the wider press, but this time it is done harder. As this is going on, it is constantly being deformed, and the worker has to make sure that it is pounded until all sides are even. Another round in the forge, then another round of pounding takes place. It is again cut in half with the help of a large block of iron and some thermite. Once the gap closes, which is now folded in half, it is returned to the forge, then pounded again. Another knife is also being forged, which is further along in the process. This relatively long block is removed from the forge and pounded upon by the smaller press. As it is being struck, it is becoming flatted and flatter. On the other hand, another thicker steel block is also in the forge. It is removed, pounded by the press, and then returned to the forge. Our first steel block is removed from the forge and repeatedly pressed on the smaller press. As this happens, it has now started to become longer and longer. Once all the parts are smooth, they are taken back into the forge and left to burn until the glow returns. As before, it is removed, pounded, and returned to the forge. The more extended steel bar is removed from the forge, the more significant press pounds upon it. The edges are pressed, and it is then cut in half. Another block is removed from the forge and pressed using the press machine. After that, it is returned to the forge. Once the block is glowing, it is removed from the forge and placed on the clamp. Here, it is twisted with the help of a makeshift clap. The workers ensure that it is thoroughly twisted, then remove the extra impurity layer. After that, it is returned to the forge, where it is removed and the edge is completely cut off. Then, it is pressed once more, making it more rounded. Once it cools completely in the natural surroundings, it is returned to the forge. There is another knife that is taking its shape that is in the forge. This one is flat, and all it needs are some final touches. It is removed from the forge and pressed to become even more balanced. Once this is done, it is taken back into the forge, and when it is removed, it is branded with the company's name. It is then pressed one last time, and it is finally time to turn this into a knife. The whole knife is sharpened by a fast spinning grinder. This is done until the entire blade takes its shape. On the other hand, the round rod is taken out of the forge and cut once more. Another piece is removed from the forge and repeatedly pressed, which becomes thinner and thinner. This piece is folded once more, and a bit of metal is placed in the middle. After this, it is placed back in the forge. Another piece is removed, and after being pressed, it is sharpened on the grinder to give it more defined edges. Another piece is removed from the forge and twisted just like before. This process of pounding and burning in the forge continues, and they are all pressed until they start flattening. The process is repeated with all the steel blocks in the forge until they are ready. There are blocks of various sizes that go through this process since they are making knives of all sizes. As the hot metal pieces are pressed, they are also shaped into the desired shape of the knife. The workers hold it, ensuring it is pressed into the desired shape. They are also becoming flatter and longer as this goes on. Once they are balanced enough, they are allowed to cool completely, and a worker draws the final shape on them using a marker pen. This is the shape that will be ground into the metal piece and the final shape of the knife. After everything is set, it is taken to the grinder and smoothened until it gets to the desired shape. The sharp side is also defined, as is the flat side. All the sides, including the handles, are smoothened. Once a knife is finally sharpened, it is dipped in the cooling liquid, into the forge, and then into the liquid again. This is to make it harden after the heat. Last, the knife is polished with another liquid and dipped into the liquid, where it will take the pattern and the color. This is done for all the blades, and they are then completed. And finally, the handles are heated and fitted into the wooden handles, giving you the final product. To test the sharpness of these knives, they try cutting paper, then proceed to cut metal. If it passes this test, then the blades are ready. So, what did you think of the entire knife making process? Feel free to tell us to know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell for more future updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.